Sometimes when you're tired,
Yeah.
you have like the funniest mild sarcasm. Just you'll just say what a person did, and it's so subtly undermining. It
So
makes me
people
so
will.
happy.
I asked, do you think people will be able to tell I'm really loopy and sleepy this time? And you said no. But
Well, now
clearly it is
I betrayed
apparent.
you, right?
Yeah.
I betrayed you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I sort of led you to a conclusion
That's
and
a
then
classic
betrayed you.
Slay move. Is
Yeah.
if I'm tired, my jokes will be, "Oh, good, Adam took a sip of water. That's great." Stuff like that. It just left me to
He
fill
does
the
do
air
that.
myself. Welcome to a joint project between myself, Michael Swaim, and
Myself, Adam Ganser.
ourselves are called the 1Upsmanship Good Time Video Game Boys. You didn't know that, but that's our title.
Yeah, that's our full title.
That's
We've
right.
abbreviated for your enjoyment, but
Viscounts of video games. And today we're covering not the orig, but the remaster of Shadow of the Colossus, which many people, not many people, because it flopped, but it is considered a cult classic. So what a lot of hardcore gamers or gamers who stray off the AAA path consider a very fundamental game and good.
it's
to
often
discuss.
it's definitely one of those games that people regard
And
as one of the greats.
critics who care about video games as an artistic medium, which we do because that's what this show's about.
You know that.
Flocked to this game and analyzing this game because it was one of the earliest games that was felt artistic enough, for lack of a better word, to seriously unpack as like a piece of art. And in fact, I wrote a Cracked column way back in the day, 10 games that should be considered, why video games should be considered art, 10 examples, and it was on there. And
That's not surprising.
So you know what I'm going to say when we get to keep or delete, but before we get there, we have a long road to hoe, and it is Adam Ganser, player one this time.
Yes, it is me.
Adam's turn to do what we call the speed run, a brief explanation of the game. So let's pass that first checkpoint, which in this game means dying inevitably.
Right.
So let's all inevitably die.
Yeah. And our sword pointing to the way to redo the episode.
Right. Start that clock. Take us away, Adam Ganzi.
Shadow of the Colossus is a 2005 third-person action-adventure game starring a boy we find out from Wikipedia is named Wander, who brings his female friend, sister, girlfriend, who can tell?
Wednesday Addams from the Addams Family.
Yes.
In the remaster, she
does
looks
look like that. To a forbidden temple, having acquired a forbidden sword, asks a forbidden demon whether or not he might get this woman reanimated. The demon says you must kill these 16 colossi
Nice.
before I will revive this woman.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest of the game is you finding and then killing all these different colossi. And there is more plot. You find out at the end what was actually going on, or you find out some version of what was going on at least. But generally this game is a open world, quiet, pensive, sort of sorrowful journey through the puzzle of killing giant creatures who really didn't do anything to you other than they stood in your way when you were trying to reanimate your, I'm going to say, girlfriend.
Yeah.
And otherwise, 2005, it was heralded by critics. It was panned by people who buy games and remade recently. I think 2018.
Do you mean that they didn't?
I mean, they didn't buy it.
Okay.
I mean, they
or
didn't
I was
buy it.
wondering if you did research and saw
No.
like just people who fucking
I just
hated
mean-
this game.
I just
when
mean
it came out.
in terms of sales, it was panned.
Yes.
It was remade in 2018, very faithfully, but also very majestically. That is the version I played.
Yep.
And it is available. It was available on PS2. Now it's available on PS4.
Is that the
Stop.
clock?
The
Stop
clock.
that clock. Okay.
I want those extra seconds.
I'm sorry.
taken
Yeah,
off.
they'll be deducted. We will die inevitably and get sucked back to the beginning, which arguably might reset you slightly in time if you fail to kill
Only
a
a little
colossus.
bit. Yeah.
As with a lot of things that are considered minimalist and mysterious and intriguing by
Yeah.
critics, there are multiple possible interpretations of a lot of the things in this.
This game is very open to. It's very subjective in a lot of ways. I would argue.
Although
it's one of the most
we
subjective games.
Yeah,
but you gotta do your rant.
Past that checkpoint.
The checkpoint's basically a broken idol and another whispering demigod.
Oh yeah, let's listen to Dorman, a voice in our head. Yeah. Inspire us to murder yet again. As Michael Swaim, I can't pronounce my own goddamn name. Player 2, you can call me, round these parts, begins his rant. Player 2 rant begin. Oh, that's me. Okay, well, I played Shadow of the Colossus, the orig, and the remaster, but I've always, since we started this podcast, wanted to discuss it. I did find it felt like discovering Arrested Development early on and actually watching it week by week on television, because I would like sit alone in my dorm at whatever weird time it was on, and my 10 dorm mates would be like, we're going to drink or like do something life affirming and maybe touch each other's butts and stuff.
Right.
And I'm like,
interested?
That all sounds amazing, but I have to watch this. And it did feel like a little secret for me. And Shadow of the Colossus very much felt like that. I didn't play Ico. So
this is a sequel to Ico.
Like a Wes Anderson, Fumito Ueda, the designer, lead designer on this game, has a very strong artistic voice that is kind of tonally similar from game to game.
Sure.
He's got 3 so far. Ico, then comes Shadow of the Colossus, then most recently The Last Guardian.
Like 10 years later.
Yes.
A long time later.
Yeah, he's not Wes Anderson-y in that sense.
Right.
He takes his sweet
He really
time.
takes his time, yeah.
But I do appreciate the tone that he always achieves. And I didn't play Ico, as I said. I played it right after Shadow of the Colossus. But having played Shadow first, it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I think it evokes and deserves a lot of credit for this, and I know the design team was inspired. It evokes the exact feeling that Zelda Breath of the Wild evokes.
Yeah,
that everyone
does.
gives it so much credit for.
Yep.
And just as it was in Breath of the Wild, yes, when I saw the dragon for the first time in the sky, I felt weirdly moved in like a Hayao Miyazaki way, where it's like, I'm briefly in another world.
Yeah.
It's not good, it's not bad, it just feels mysterious.
And maybe sorrowful.
Yes.
You know?
And Shadow of the Colossus also captured that tone so many years earlier that as a kid playing your standard PS2 game, I was like, I discovered the Rembrandt of video games, and all my fucking gamer friends are too dumb to get it. You know, it felt again like a secret.
Fucking idiots.
Yeah, like the joy of like, no, I understand why Beautiful Joe is innovative, or like Shadow felt like that, and I knew it was going to be important to my understanding of gaming as a medium as I played it the first time. It's one of the few games where I was like, I will always think about this game and compare it to other games. And not just for its innovations. It also has weird, imbalanced flaws that we'll get to. But I better wrap my rant up, so I shall. Going through the pipe, giving it to Adam.
Yeah. So, full disclosure, this is a game that Mike asked me to play to cover on this podcast. Now, I had heard of it. But I never played it in its original time period. I played it in this remake. I can say that I feel like I had a similar experience that I would have had in 2005. Like the way the remaster was done, I think created the possibility of a modern gamer, like a current day gamer, to still experience the feelings you would have encountered in 2005 when you played the game for the first time.
I feel like every major innovation like this, sorry to interrupt, it'll be short, it does lose some impact of.
I'm sure
you know
that's
what
true.
I mean. You know
I'm
what
sure
I
that's
mean.
true.
I can't like Star Wars as much as people. I'm supposed to like it.
No.
But I'm like, if I saw it in 1979 in theaters, I'm sure I would. I'm sure I would like it that much.
I bet. This game has a few. I also want to just tip my hat to a few like cool personal things. So like the landscape of this world that they built is very Asian, and I loved it for that. Like there was just like details in the way the hills are and stuff that I saw in a bus outside of Changsha when I was 20. Like and it was like wow, it's just like that. It's like really blows your mind.
With different kinds of plant life and stuff.
Different, yeah. It's not exactly that, but it definitely is. It's definitely a different ecology in subtle ways.
Yeah,
and it's really cool, and it really transported me back to that. That is incalculably valuable for me. Like, I just loved it for that reason. I think this game is a great tone, a great concept, a meaningful outing and good idea for a game designer. I think it's kind of a whatever game. I think the game is I think everything about it structurally is cool. I think, again, this is another Excel spreadsheet game to me. Everything about it, when you put it on a spreadsheet, is like, that's a really good idea. The experience of it is like pretty good. It's fine. It's not amazing to me. It's fine. There are things that are amazing about it, and I will definitely acknowledge them when the right time comes. But like, I want to preface it and say I'm not enamored with this game the way everyone else that I have encountered seems to be. I thought the story ultimately was a little bit of a letdown, and mostly because I feel like it doesn't give you clear feelings. You know, like, and I mean at the end. I don't mean throughout. I mean at the end, you don't really know what happened. And I think that's a little bit of a problem for this game. Like, not a huge problem, but a little bit of a problem. I think there is no experience that I can compare the first 4 or 5 Colossi to. Like, it's a unique experience in video games that still, I can't think of a better version of it. That alone is incredible. It's been 14 years. And I still can't think of a better boss fight than some of these boss fights in this game. That's amazing. It makes me rethink how much I love Breath of the Wild.
But you better really like it, because that's all there is.
Yeah, that's true. That is all it is, right?
Yeah.
It makes
like
me...
you said, there's ways in which you can consider it almost a tech demo, which is
right.
weird. Yeah.
Like
it's very minimalist.
This game definitely inherited some of its tone and strategy from Ocarina of Time. But then again, it's clear to me Zelda borrowed again from this. Like,
I totally agree.
They definitely loaned to each other.
I think
sure.
One of the big revelations I hope people get from this episode, and it sounds like we had that same observation with the remaster, was like, this is an important sub-dialectic in the Zelda franchise.
Yes, very much so.
They've informed each other, and it's sort of warped the direction of Zelda and vice versa.
The thing you love about Breath of the Wild, if you have not played this game, you're probably going to love it about this game too, I would argue.
Yeah.
Not all of the things, but Breath of the Wild is more than this game, but it is also everything great about this game. That's probably enough for now.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's succumb yet again to the demonic voice that urges us to kill. Game on! Game on! Game on!
How did you feel about the acting in this game?
Well, there's not a lot of it,
but where there is, it's pretty good.
Yes, I think
really
it's
compelling.
Very good.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, I think one way to start would be, there's so few plot elements, we could just get out of the way and discuss our interpretations.
Like, what is the plot?
Because the plot is only the beginning, the middle, and the end, and the end
Yes.
is, there are no other enemies except these bosses. Ride to where they are, kill them. Ride to the next one, kill them. You know, so the plot is dispensed basically in 2 chunks, and
there's a
minimal
setup.
number of elements.
There's an opening setup that's about 5 minutes. There's a cut scene you get after you kill the 12th Colossi, where you find out there are other people that are coming to this temple.
That's right. From
to
your
stop
village.
you from doing this. And then there's the ending.
Yes. And I will say that I'm at an advantage only because I've liked this game for so long that I've researched it a bit. And I know Fumito Ueda considers it a prequel to Ico, which I've also played through. And knowing that makes it much clearer.
Is Ico worth playing?
Oh, I think Ico's even better, personally.
Wow. Okay. Because this is a very good game.
Another thing that is very interesting to me is that he's repeatedly said in interviews that the design team's goal, it is the way modern art, or at least there was an era of modern art that was obsessed with minimalism.
Sure.
And they said our goal, the thing we thought would be innovative, would be, why does there have to be rings and you exchange rings for red orbs, and the red orbs increase the rate at which enemies drop boobas, and there's 1,000 Goombas, but there's also, they said, how many elements can you remove and it's still a game? Because we feel that there's a trade-off between the more elements that sort of, in a Brechtian way, pull you out of the game, because you go like, I need 18 more rings before I can buy the thing.
Yeah.
You strategize your inventory. Sure. They said, like, we wanted to see, what if you pushed it all the other way, full immersion? You're not thinking about items. You're not thinking about your HUD. blah, blah, blah. And I will argue, I think in Colossus, they pushed it to a fault. The game is sometimes boring, especially getting to the boss when there's nothing. You know there's no activities between you and going to the boss. You're just going there.
God, see, like, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit here. I actually don't think it's boring that much.
Okay.
Now, you sat
Good.
with me while I was very frustrated with a particular Colossi.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you saw that part, which was probably the lowest point I had with that game.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I would argue that it's not boring that often. What it really is bad controls. Like, that's the main flaw of this game, is that the controls are bad.
Well, the dynamic, if you haven't played it, is you got to climb these Colossi and attack certain points. And in order to climb them, you have basically the only bar you care about is your, like, how long can you hold on bar.
Right. Which again,
slowly
that's not a bad
depletes.
dynamic. It's literally the button is not that responsive. The character is very floaty, and the camera is not where you need it to be. It's like, it's those three things. If those things were different, this game would be a perfect game, maybe. Like, it's that big of an impact for me that it's like, oh, this is not fun to play. The playing of it is bad. Or
Right.
or just not very good.
Well,
Like,
also while I was there, you were saying, and I ended up agreeing with you, that it was a very small team. It was made on a small budget.
Sure.
And for what they had, I do think it makes an outsized artistic impact for
big
what they're
time.
working with.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you could argue that you only need 11 Colossi, but they didn't want their game to be that short, so they added
They wanted to charge
doubles.
$60, right?
Right. Because I was like, oh, have you fought the snake? And you're like, which snake? There's like 3 snakes. And I was like, they really should all be different. Every boss
Yeah.
fight should have been different. There
There's
shouldn't
2
have been
lions.
repeats. Yeah.
There's like 3 or 4 humanoids.
Yeah.
There's 3 snakes. I think there's at least 1 bird, maybe 2.
Well, we argued about whether the bird is a snake. But
No, there's a sky snake,
well, there's
and
a
sea
serpent.
snake,
There's
and
a
a
sea
sand
snake that can also temporarily be in the sky.
Right. There's a sand snake.
Also, I think it's important to point out, like you said, the sheer size of the enemies, and maybe boredom is being used properly in this context, because often boredom is good for setting up a big impact.
Yeah.
It's interesting how you go and go and go. You don't see anything except like little birds. You know, that's like the only animal life you'll see.
Yeah, butterflies and those little lizards. Yeah.
And you finally get there and you see the largest enemy you've ever seen rendered in a computer engine. You didn't even know it could physically
Big time.
render things that large.
Yeah.
And I think aside from the link connection, the link, there's also a connection to God of War, I think, carries on that
Yeah.
tradition. Well, that's the next time I remember is, I forget which one. I think it might be 2, but it might be 3. God of War, where you are on top of Atlas and his whole back is a level, and the background you can see him walking while you're going through the level on his back. And that took me right back to Shadow of the Colossus. And there is something about, we even talked about it in the Super Mario World episode, the bullet bills being big.
Yeah, they are big.
It's cool when you see a big freaking thing
No, it
in
really
a
is.
game. It really is.
The first God of War, same year as Shadow of the Colossus.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
And I think God of War accomplished a similar thing where you were like, even in God of War 1, you'd fight the Hydra and be like, Hydra's fucking huge.
Yeah,
I didn't
holy
realize we
shit.
could make
Yeah.
big bosses like this.
I mean, that was a thing that started probably in Super Mario World, I imagine, or whenever. Who cares? It doesn't matter when it started. But like, it was a trend that never got old in video games for a while, and I feel like Shadow of the Colossus did it the best out of all the games I can think of.
No, and it's still a trend.
You know?
Like From Software games.
Oh, they
be
do
like,
it well too. Yeah.
Everyone is a human, but because this guy's the boss at the end of the level, he's like 9'5", and there's no
Yeah.
explanation for
At
why.
least, yeah.
But it's like how good you are at fighting makes your body like swell up physically bigger.
But the thing that's really cool about this game is that you have to navigate the physical being's size. The only way you can kill these things is by like essentially acting the way a bug acts. You know, like where you have to climb the thing at the right time and stay a hold of it while it shakes you off, and that's like just a fun way to do. They made a puzzle out of a boss, and it's really cool.
Boss and a level simultaneously.
Yeah.
And it reminds you again of Breath of the Wild, of the physics puzzles you encounter in the
Yes.
temples. It feels kind of like that.
Yes.
Also, something I discovered while researching for this, Ico was the first game to have keyframe animations applied to video games.
Oh.
And now that I think about it, you totally notice. It is
Interesting.
It's such an important behind-the-scenes artistic decision because in Ico, you're both kids, but it's still a horned boy and a pale woman who doesn't speak. And you're leading her through puzzles and danger. And it's like a never-ending escort mission. And usually I hate escort missions, but it's balanced so well that this one doesn't feel awful.
That's mostly what they do.
But you have to like call her over. You have to hold her hand,
Right.
find things for her to climb up. And as you do, in retrospect, I realize, there's something special about the fact that when you press the hold hand button, her hand would almost like a rag doll get sucked to your hand and they just join at the point. You know, it feels so crisp and blah, blah, blah. And a ton of games use keyframe animation now, which is basically, if you're unfamiliar with the term, rather than you would say, when they press X, do this animation. Like in Ico, he swings a board. And that animation is set and the computer can't change it. It can just have it happen.
Right.
This changed the way games are constructed such that you can say, for example, I'm sorry, I have From Software on the mind because Sekiro just came out and I've been playing it. And in Sekiro, you can counter a stab move by stepping on the blade and pushing it into the ground. Even though there's a window of time in which to do that, the animation would therefore not match up. And in old games, you would have things where like the spear goes through his foot, but it basically does it. Thanks to keyframe animation, the computer can instead be told, no, if they input the right command, his foot and the blade should touch and go towards the ground. And the computer can procedurally make that animation. And apparently Ico was the first game to implement that. And I can't believe it was like an indie producer that first put keyframe animation into gaming.
It's very clear to me that the people who are behind this Shadow of the Colossus are people who care very much about the feelings you get from images. They're really, really good at that. Everything about it is specific and well thought out. Every single thing. And part of why it's so good is because it's very contained. It's a very small game, really.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's a big world, kind of, but it isn't really. You know, because it's like, it's 16 small little levels. That's all it really is. And the Colossi don't even look. How am I supposed to say this word? Colossi?
Colossi, you got it.
Okay.
You've been
I'm
switching
second
back
guessing
and forth,
myself now. The Colossi all have a similar vibe and aesthetic that feels cool. And even those choices were good because they're kind of evil looking, but they're also
great.
kind of not.
That's part of the sorrowful feel.
Yes.
Is the story is very clearly set up for you to not know
If this is a good thing to do or not.
Are these evil things? Or are they of animal intelligence? Is this like I'm just stabbing an elephant in the head and it didn't do anything to me? Because that's kind of sad.
Yeah. It does. I don't think you're supposed to feel good about killing the Colossi.
Until the end, where I feel the interpretation is they were the devil's souls
split
into 16 pieces, so they were always evil. But the game didn't let you know that till after you already kind of felt bad for them.
I think just the amount of violence you're doing to them feels bad.
Yeah,
Like,
it feels like
you're
stabbing
making
a blue whale in the eye.
It does. But that's on purpose.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and they're like made of like shaggy black hair and rune stones cobbled together. They're really cool.
Yeah. And like weird armor. They're all like partially armored.
But whoever's giving them their armor advice sucks.
Real bad at it.
Because they're like, left leg fully armored, right leg you're gonna want some good climby hair dangling down.
It's like if somebody was like a movie armorer for them. Like, listen, that side's not going to be on camera. Don't worry, kid. You don't need an elbow armor. You don't need it.
I love the humanoid one. I think he's called the King.
There's like 4 of them.
Where you're in like an underground pit and you have to keep ducking through the windows in the surrounding area. And he tries to grab at you. There are just some moments that feel epic and mythic.
Very much so.
And I think you're onto something. I also think this design team is very concerned with blurring the line between film and gaming.
I mean,
and
this
like
is
eliminating game elements until they almost have a film.
This is the first game I've played other than Psychonauts that I was like, this is a perfect game for Mike. Like, it's perfect for you. It's exactly what you want to do in a game, and it's really good.
Although if you've played neither, those games aren't tremendously similar.
They're not similar, but they both are in your wheelhouse.
Okay.
Like, that's what I was thinking when I was playing. I was like, I know exactly why Mike likes this. This is like right on. Now, I did really like it. but I have to keep saying
Oh
it
yeah,
because
if
it
the
really
issue
matters.
wasn't boredom, what did you not like about it?
It's the controls.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But, like,
yeah,
and-
they're finicky. They are really finicky.
They're not just finicky because I do want to harp on this, and I know people are gonna be like, "Fuck you, dude." I don't care.
Well, it's when I say I think people. Oh my God, they're gonna come at me so hard.
Yeah.
I think From games have bad controls. I think
They're
unfairly
a lot
lose.
snappier.
And I know people will just go get good at game. So that's what they're gonna say to you about this. Just be
my
prepared.
response to that is like, I don't
I'm an
need your
adult
ego
man.
shit. I don't need that.
Fuck
like,
you, Christian Ramirez.
yeah, I don't need your ego shit. I don't care. Like the game. Like there are times you cannot see where you're supposed to go, and like not because you can't see because it's hard. You can't see because the game's designed badly. Like remember how in Super
Now,
Mario?
are you talking about the light that shines off your sword that directs you where to go?
No, I'm gonna get to that.
Okay.
I'm talking about like for instance, in the very last Colossi, where
Well, if
you're,
it's singular, it's a
Colossus.
Colossus.
I know. Don't at me. Like you have to jump from hand to hand. You have to leap from hand to hand, and then he like brings you over to his
Well,
shoulder and
it's
whatever.
the hardest one intentionally. It's the
Yes,
last
but it's
one.
not hard because of the choice you have to make or the button pressing.
Or the puzzle you have to figure out.
That's a little hard, but it's hard because you can't complete the jump because the camera doesn't show you where to fucking go.
Sure,
the
yeah,
camera
it has
won't
not-
get
yeah.
where it needs to get, and then the control is not responsive. So like you're floaty, like
It's
you
like
know,
a leap of faith type thing. Yeah.
but it's not a good one. Like again, if you take exactly that scenario in a Zelda game, it wouldn't be that big of a problem, or a Mario game, or not a Nintendo game. So many other brands that are just have better controls.
That's true.
It's
And
a huge problem.
Did you play Last Guardian? This most
I
recent
did
one?
have the same problem. I thought
Oh,
very floaty.
I thought it had the same problem, but they suppressed gameplay even more so that it
Yes.
was less felt. And
But
I
that's like
believe continuing their evolution towards like they want to make movies that are games but still movies. Last Guardian, and this is praise, but I also there's more to it than that, but we probably won't unpack it fully.
Sure.
I felt like, oh, that's the first game I played that felt like I played a brand new Pixar movie. It felt like going to a Pixar movie to me. And I'm just going to put that there. I don't need to unpack it
I liked
too much.
Last Guardian. The pieces of it I've played.
I believe they're evolving.
This game was better. I thought.
As I said,
Much
I
better.
think they're interested in playing with the line between making like
Sure.
epic fantasy film. And because of what's interesting about Last Guardian is the gameplay is, again, you have an escort, but it's more like you are the escort because the thing that you're with is stronger than you and needed to beat all the puzzles. So you're actually trying to convince it to do what you want. You can't control it.
Right.
Cool. Like,
I think that's a clever idea, and I like it,
They always wrap a game around one clever idea.
and it's really good.
that toys with the idea of interactivity itself, and I admire that. It is a formula. It's a formula in its own way, but
Well, I mean, we've lauded Nintendo for essentially doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, so I'm not getting self-righteous about that. I just think the game play and control, like those, like if those things get in the way
Yeah.
of a simple experience like this, it's a huge problem.
Something else I want to say is, and I don't believe it, but in the same, which is the Wikipedia entry, so people go correct Wikipedia if this is bullshit. But in the Ico Wikipedia, it currently also says that Ico is the first game to have in-engine bloom lighting effects, like diffusion.
Okay.
Meaning the way a night light or like a street lamp looks in the fog. And this is a bizarre complaint, but I feel like people who discovered it in 2005 and feel this way will feel me like it looks so good now, and the engine can make everything so photorealistic that they like deleted all the fog.
Yes.
The original version, because they wanted a vast feeling area, but the box could not render very far.
So they fogged it out.
And it actually, again, this will come out after the Resident Evil one, so we just covered Resident Evil, where I also have this feeling, and maybe it's the same thing where, no, I'm wrong, it was a failing, but I felt like the fog added to the tone, and not having the fog hurts the game. Now
I can't say because I
the
didn't play
engine
it
looks
then.
too good. I wish that the engine still looked that good. I'm not against graphical enhancement.
Sure.
But I wish they had not made the sky perfectly clear. I wish they realized that the fog and the diffusion of light through the fog was part of what worked.
When you wander the Earth looking for the Colossi,
Well, that's
do you
after
get
the
a
podcast
feeling
is
of
done.
yeah, right? Do you get a sort of feeling of both sort of like a wow, is like a like a pensive, slightly wistful feeling? Is that what you get?
Yes.
I got that exact feeling.
Yes.
So it's working.
Yeah. I just think a weather system would have enhanced it even further, I guess is all I'm really getting at.
That's fair. I mean,
especially
I'm with you
because,
on
I mean, when you're talking about like Red Dead
not
2.
Breath of the Wild's weather system.
Red Dead 2, to me, is half of the enjoyment is it's the most advanced lighting, diffusion, and shading engine that we have thus far.
It's funny that you bring
And
that
it makes
game
it
up.
gorgeous. And I thought that they made the remaster of Shadow of the Colossus look as crisp and clean as possible.
Yeah.
And overdid it slightly. I would have been like, now mess it up. Put in some clouds and some fog
Sure.
and shit.
It's funny that you bring that game up because there's a part of me that really wished I had played this game before I played Red Dead 2.
Because the horse works in Red Dead 2?
And the horse doesn't work in this game
No,
like
the
it's
horse
supposed
sucks.
to. Well, again, that's
I mean,
like
it's
a huge
worse
problem.
than a Zelda
like,
horse. Too. It's
way worse. Yeah. Part of it is that they insist on taking over the camera and
Yes.
forcing you to look where they want you to look.
Cinematic mode automatically kicks in if you start riding too far, too long.
But you can't take your hands off the control and just watch it. That's what Red Dead did. That was
you
so
find
good.
yourself actually fighting the computer for control of where the camera is.
Right. It's like you want to give them credit, like cool ideas, guys.
Well,
but
I'm
they're
sure
very
were thinking,
frustrating.
There's no enemies, so may as well take
Whatever.
over the camera.
Let us
It'll
do
be cool.
shit.
Yeah.
Let us do some shit.
It'll look
And-
pretty.
And I'm like, yeah. Well, and maybe it's because I'm 2019 guy. Like that might be the problem. You know, like maybe 2005 Adam would have
I've
been
played,
fine with this. You know.
I'm sorry. I'm accustomed to a higher class of virtual equine. Like it's just hard for me to, it's the level of horse to which I become accustomed.
I don't even get to choose any of his stats.
Yeah.
I don't get to like feed him, pet him, brush him.
I don't know his
nothing.
name.
Yeah, Argo, I believe is his name.
Really?
Yeah, I believe that's right.
Go fuck yourself. Okay.
Yeah. I know that I'm being petty and like the fans of this game are gonna get hurt, but like I do think it matters. I do think that stuff matters.
No, do you, man?
You know?
That's your role on this show.
Yeah,
to
just
be the
that
petty,
guy.
shitty one.
Petty,
No.
shitty guy.
Depends
No,
what game it is.
But I think like I don't think there's any value in venerating a game and forgiving all its flaws because it's so good
Right.
at the things it's good at.
Right.
Especially when one of those things isn't how the game plays.
Right.
You know, but that I've really sort of the only other complaint that I have, and I'll move on from this, is I think the sword mechanic is equally clumsy. I think it's a good idea, like using the sword light reflection to tell
Again,
you where
as
to go.
they've said, they wanted to avoid you interacting with the map too much because it takes you out of the immersion. That's
Wonderful
the whole thing.
idea.
Yeah.
Wonderful idea. Yeah, because you don't really need the map. Like,
Yeah.
what do you even need it for? The idea is really good, but it has the same problem. Again, I wish I'd played this after Red Dead 2 or before, because it doesn't. The horse basically goes the direction that you're pointing the sword, so you're constantly steering into shit that you have to stop, get more space, get the light to go the right way. You know what I mean? It's just not a intuitive way
Agreed.
to do this. That's enough.
Your
complaining
legs
about.
want to be doing different stuff than your hands are doing.
Right.
And
Which is
the
a standard
controls do not
thing.
support that. It is nowadays, but at that time, the controls were not as supportive.
No, first-person shooters did this. Run around one direction, aim a different one.
Well, yeah, Halo. I mean, you can drive the tank and also look around, but
Right.
I would just argue that
That's 4 years earlier.
Specific to horsemanship,
I'm sure.
Red Dead 2 is something special.
Definitely.
It's so easy to ride the horse and shoot a bird out of the sky. It's just very polished.
I
They have
wanna
way
s-
more money.
Definitely,
Time
and that
to
does
test,
that
people
does
to
matter.
test, yeah.
But I want to, and I might be wrong, but I want to say that you could shoot an arrow off your horse in Ocarina of Time. Am I wrong? I think you could.
Yeah, you can. No, you definitely can.
Yes, they had exactly the control scheme I wanted the sword to be with that.
Shooting an arrow off your horse in Ocarina is also frustratingly
Is it?
not.
Is it
it's
the same
not
way?
like easy to do.
Okay, yeah. So maybe we just didn't figure out horse
But
mechanics.
I would argue that the horse in Ocarina overall still works a lot better than the horse
Well,
in
you can also
Shadow.
summon them. I mean, you could do that in this game too, but like with a flute, it's the best. You can't take that away
It's
from
a fucking ocarina, Adam. It's in the title.
Isn't it in the flute family? Isn't Ocarina
You know
in the
that
flute family?
you know flautists murdered my mother in front of me. Why are you doing this to me? Flautists!
She shouldn't have had all those negative comments about woodwinds.
A number 4.5 reed slit her throat, and she crumpled in a filthy alley. That's when I swore to become Loot Man,
The flute destroyer. Flout the flautist.
I want to give a rundown of what I'm pretty sure the plot is and see if you think
really
it's
curious.
interesting or not.
Yeah, sure. I only have one complaint about the plot, but do your thing.
Sure. So in this game, and interrupt if you're like, I interpreted that differently, because I think that's what's interesting. But my interpretation of this game's story in a vacuum is a kid shows up with a corpse of a lady somewhere he's not supposed to be.
Yes.
He makes a deal with a demon, starts killing these things.
Yes.
And then
stole the sword, right?
nothing really happens till the end. But then at the end, the elders of the village he originates from come and explain everything. And it's not too long. What they basically say is, Doraemon is this evil demon. You've seen Fern Gully. We trapped him here. There were all these magical seals.
You idiot kid.
The only thing that can break the seals is this sword. That's why it's a forbidden artifact no one's supposed to touch. You defied what we said. We told you, I'm sorry your wife or girlfriend is dead, but there's nothing we can do. You heard this rumor that this would work. You fucking stole the sword. You came to the place you're not supposed to come. Wander, you piece of shit.
That's why you're a demon now.
And then after killing the 16th demon, basically every time you kill a Colossi, their evil energy enters your body,
right?
Yet you persist out of love or dedication or something. So at the end, when all 16 enter your body, you take on like a pale complexion with blue veins. You grow devil horns, and the implication is the evil demon tricked you.
Yeah.
It only just wanted control of your body.
Definitely.
Or it will keep up its end of the bargain. I think it does, because she does wake up from death. But it always intended to like devour you. Because it needs a host so it can break the spell and be in the world again. So you get killed by the priests or elders of your village.
But they cast a spell.
It no longer needs your body, so you're just dead, but it like bursts out of your body and you see it, and it's literally just like a devil made of black smoke with the big horns.
It looks like the villain in Fantasia.
Hellboy horns, yeah.
Yeah.
If Hellboy still had his horns. And then they go...
You badly pilot it.
They go, oh, you get to play as it... Which I actually think also very clever. They knew that if you're going to do this,
you want to be a
at
Colossus
the end,
once,
for at least 5 minutes, you control a Colossus. That is very brilliant.
Good idea. Bad controls, but good idea.
The controls suck and it's not a fun part to play.
Yep.
So,
huge problem, but yeah.
But conceptually, you're like, that's smart.
Great idea on a spreadsheet. Love it. And I also liked how it was visually.
Yes. So the people who we now realize are essentially the good people, and you were kind of the asshole the whole time, because you let the needs of the few outweigh the needs of the many. Cast a last-minute spell that puts a force field over this entire area and breaks the bridges leading to it. So now it's even more sealed, and Doraemon can't get out. And that's all well and good, but you're dead. The end. And then post-credits is the woman who's never spoken does wake up, gives birth to a baby who has horns, and lives happily ever after with the horse in this area that she can now never leave because it's magically sealed. But I guess you're supposed to feel good that, well, he wanted to sacrifice his life to save his wife and child, and he did. They live. But they live this kind of weird, solitary life in this dome they can never leave.
I didn't think it was his child. I thought he was reborn as that baby.
Oh, that's an interesting interpretation.
For some reason. Because he had the same horns.
But here's what's interesting, and why, to me, the whole key to the whole thing is... Because of the release sequence, I assumed this was a sequel to Ico, and that this is the Ico kid grown up.
Definitely.
Because in Ico, you're a kid with horns who has a little girlfriend who is like pure white. It's not. It's a prequel.
It's a prequel.
And now it actually does fully make sense to me. Because in Ico, the plot of Ico is a kid is born in a village, and he happens as a genetic, like, random chance to have horns. But this village tells a tale eons ago of a guy who almost destroyed the world by making a pact with the devil. And when he did, horns appeared on his head.
Yep.
So now they hate anyone who's born with horns, and they go and throw them into this pit.
Yep.
So Ico is you're thrown into a pit. You wake up, you find a girl who's trapped in there, and an unrelated demon called the Queen is trying to suck her life essence out to keep herself alive. It's always you're fighting a demon and you beat them.
This is very Zelda-esque.
Yes.
It's like it's iterative.
And in Ico, Except what's interesting is Ico's totally different gameplay. You don't fight any colossi.
I think that's
you
cool
just
too.
solve puzzles, pushing and pulling puzzles. And you eventually escape from the castle and live happily ever with that girl. But of course, it's hella confusing if you try to connect that as, then how did she die and why did she come back? Why did he come back to that place?
Right.
And why is his horns gone, but then they grow back?
Right.
And is that kid? No. That's the ancestor of that kid that made it taboo in his culture to have horns.
Or sort of what you might call a spiritual ancestor.
Yes.
The way that Link isn't descended from all Links. There's just a Link every once in a while.
And one of my
Right.
greatest gripes with the Zelda story is Link is always the same and does the same thing. I think it's really cool to have a Link-like world where one time Link's a young boy who's like simple and kind-hearted. One time Link is an adult who's seen some shit and he's a man on
Sure.
a mission and he'll make a deal with the devil. Link is still whatever that soul is.
There's
can
more
still
range.
be shaped by the circumstances. Yeah.
So I didn't know about Ico at all. I mean, I knew that it was a game. I knew that. But,
Right.
So for me, the ending didn't matter.
Yeah.
Like for me, the game was over when she woke up. Like the baby was like, okay, so he's reborn as a baby, and they just stay there. Like as a narrative independent of Ico, it's not very satisfying.
I would not, I'm sorry, but as someone who's gone to therapy about issues with power dynamics
Yeah.
and the relationship and the mothering instinct,
Sure.
how fucking weird would it be for your wife to give birth to you and now you love her like a wife, but she's also your biological mother, literally?
If that's what we think happened.
I thought the reason he was so dead set on not letting her die is because she was pregnant with his child when she died. But
we don't
that's
see any evidence of her pregnancy.
other than that she gives birth to a child.
Other than that there's a baby that she discovers in the well. The baby's not next to her. The baby's in a well.
It's like an immaculate yeah.
Yeah, it's magic. It's clearly magic.
And he has said, I'm the kind of storyteller where it's both or neither.
Like I assume,
We left it unanswered, so it's not like there's a right interpretation.
Well, and I also think that we're really quick to say that the demon is evil.
Just because the village fears it?
And I'm not sure that's true. Like I mean, certainly the demon wasn't honest with him. Like there's a bit of Faust's bargain in that sense.
And it's made of black smoke, and
But
all
I
I'll
think
say is...
I think it's challenging us with that. I think that's like
Maybe.
it looks evil,
in
but
Ico,
is it evil?
In Ico, the black smoke monsters also exist. The
Yeah.
exact same ones that are in this.
Yeah.
And they're fucking assholes, dude. Okay. And they're constantly trying to drag a young girl.
They're real shitty black smoke monsters.
If you played
dude.
Ico, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You hate them so much.
Yeah.
And all they do all day is try and drag a screaming, struggling child into a portal to get her life essence drained by a vampire. So they're bad.
Those are evil ones. Yeah, those guys are evil. I'm just saying, like, this is a game that is putting good and evil on a pretty unclear
Definitely.
scale,
Yes.
right? Like, because, like, you can make the case, and not in a Rolling Stone sympathy for the devil way, but that Dormin is basically...
just advocating for himself.
and
wants freedom.
Gave this guy what he asked for. Like this
Right.
guy wanted her to live again. He did and gave him a whole new life.
And it's not like
Like-
he lied and said, and then I'll be good. Like he
Right.
said, this is a deal with the devil. If you do this, I'll do this.
Right.
And he abided
Are
by
you
the
sure?
deal. Yeah.
Yeah. You sure you want this? Okay.
Yeah.
And then helps you when you can't figure out how to fucking tackle that snake monster.
Well, also there's something about horns imagery because
Right.
the Last Guardian also has horns.
Right.
He's definitely trying to challenge or flip. Like, I think he just thinks it's cool, the idea that something with horns isn't necessarily demonic. He's
Well,
trying to flip that imagery. in
yeah,
some
I
way.
think the Colossi in general. God, I said it wrong every time. The Colossi in general are meant to be a rebuke to our visual prejudices about what's good and evil. I think that's the best thing about the game, quite honestly. Is
Then
like
why
the Colossi
make-
are
uh-huh.
basically innocent, even if they're made of demon smoke. Like as creatures, they're basically innocent. What are they doing out there that's hurting anybody? Nothing.
Well, it's like if you split Voldemort. Well, it's like asking, are the Horcruxes that Voldemort's soul are in, are they evil or are they just an object?
Well, they're doing evil things.
The Horcruxes aren't.
Yeah, they are.
Are they?
The Tom Riddle diaries, like mind warping people.
Oh, well, I haven't read them.
The Horcrux on the back of Quiggle's face.
I thought they
head
were
or
just
whatever.
random objects they had to
Quirrell.
find, like a scavenger hunt. Okay.
No, they're all alive and they're all causing some.
And
Not all,
his essence corrupts them and turns them evil.
at least some of them are alive and doing evil things.
So I guess the question
Yeah.
is, when Dorman splits his soul into the 16 Colossi, do the Colossi still represent Dorman's intent or moral orientation?
They don't.
Which there's not
seem
nearly
to.
enough evidence to answer, but that's an interesting philosophical question.
No, and also they definitely operate with consciousnesses that seem independent of Dorman. As
So-
in, like when you kill that thing, he gets free.
Right. And I guess my question is, if their goal is to challenge that, why do you think Dorman literally looks like a shadow of the devil?
Because that's the part.
the
that,
Christian devil.
Well, but this isn't a Christian story. In fact, there's not a lot of Christianity in
And
it.
of course, the Bible itself does not describe the devil as having horns and a red tail and
No,
shit.
that's
but
all-
you know what I mean. Western culture's accepted depiction of the devil is pretty clearly what he's calling to mind with Dorman.
That's true, but well, no, I'm not sure if that's true. Like, because like
Maybe it's just
where's
a
the other-
minotaur. I don't know.
where's the other Christianity in this? There isn't any. Like, it's pretty devoid
What do you mean
of
by
Western.
other Christianity?
What other elements of this are westernized?
Oh, that people associate having horns on your head as
That-
bad. It scares
yes.
us. That's relates directly to, I think, the Christian
It
devil.
can.
Yeah.
Yes. What else?
I don't. That's it.
Right. And I'm like, are we
There's-
so sure it's a Christian image?
No,
We're applying that to it.
It could be the shadow of a bull-like monster, and he didn't intend anything like that by it. I don't know.
Right. It's hard to say. I'm not certain that the good and evil are the categories we would apply
I'll
to
say
them.
this: I'm confident that Fumito Ueda, as like a man in his 50s living in the world, knows what the Christian devil looks like
definitely.
in cartoons and stuff.
Yes, that doesn't mean that he means what we apply to it.
Right. That's
This
true.
is my only argument.
Yeah.
And
That's what I love. I love that Japanese culture has such a presence in gaming, because
well, that's the
there
thing
are
is-
particular games where you feel like you're learning about a different kind of vibe or tone that a West, like, it's the same reason people say I love foreign films.
yeah.
There's a different formulas at play than the ones that we're all used to.
There's
it's
different
fun
symbology.
to see other formulas. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the best thing about the game to me, was
Yeah.
the fact that it was not American or even European. It was clearly Asian, or I'm assuming it's certainly foreign to America.
Yeah, he's Japanese.
Yeah. So like the landscape, the tone, the kind of story it is.
Right. But
all
obviously,
of that.
a Japanese person can be as American as apple pie.
Certainly.
We're not just saying he's Japanese. We're saying he also seems to evince classical Japanese culture in his games in a way
Right.
that is awesome, because you're like, I get to feel like I'm experiencing some sort of cultural immersion.
It seems like it's drawing on different archetypes and symbology to me.
That's why my favorite
You know?
shit is like, yeah. And I worry about appropriation. So like I know I can't necessarily do this, but I want to write a movie, or have someone write a movie, someone
Sure.
more suited. Launch a fantasy franchise that competes with things like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, but instead of drawing on European Arthurian legend and permutating out from there, draws on Mayan folklore, because Mayan folklore is my favorite, happens to be my favorite folklore. I think it has the coolest stuff in it.
It does feel like you need to have permission for that.
Oh,
to
I know,
exist,
but I'm
yeah.
saying anyone out there steal that idea. Like, we need a AAA movie franchise with like the World Tree and Shabolba and shit. It would be so cool.
Yeah, I really liked that. I'm willing to say that I believe that the Dormin is supposed to be evil. Dormin is supposed to be
Sure.
evil. But I do think that it's way more morally ambiguous than any
Yeah.
version of the devil I've seen in any game.
Although his exposition to them is like, and you locked me away because of the shit I did. It's like implied that whatever he did, it wasn't good. It
Right,
caused
but
them,
also he has a valid grievance.
right.
it's
He's
it's more like the
and then you
Titan
sealed
story.
me for 1,000 years.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the Grecian Titan story
Yes.
more than it is the biblical devil story, you know?
And or once again, I must say, it's the plot of Fern Gully as well.
I've never seen Fern Gully. I know.
Oh, Fern Gully
never
is
seen it.
what's his name who plays the devil in Legends? Tim Rice
Oh, interesting.
from Rocky Horror Picture Show. Is
Yeah.
that the right name?
Yeah, I
Tim
think
Rice.
I know the person you're thinking of.
Oy, I really hope. I'm going to double check
Look it up.
because he deserves the right name to be said, and Tim Rice might be someone else.
I'm just trying to think.
Tim Rice is an English author, an Academy Award, Emmy Award, Tony Award, and Grammy Award winning lyricist. That's right. Tim Rice works with Elton John. Who am I thinking of? Everyone's yelling it. Who plays Tim Curry? I always do that because curried rice is something that I eat a lot. I always mix up Tim Rice and Tim Curry. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. And in Ferngully, it's about Tim Curry is an evil oil monster that gets trapped in a magic tree. But then when we deforest that area and cut down that tree, he's free again and he pollutes the world.
Clearly, I'll have to watch this.
Robin
movie.
Williams plays a bat.
Oh, Robin Williams.
Batty.
I didn't know that. Batty.
My name is Batty. My thoughts are erratic. Got something in the attic. He does a rap about how he's crazy and he's gonna give you some comic relief. You know?
Wow. Yeah, Ferngully never made it over to the Ganser house. I don't know what it is.
I just do love that Robin Williams, they're trying to get him into cartoons and they're like, a genie that can do anything as if by magic at any time. And then this one, to make a character that Robin Williams can inhabit because he's not going to stay on script, it has to be nuts. This one was Batty was a bat who had electrodes in his head, put in his head by scientists that are now like connected to TV satellites and randomly scramble around. It's just like you have to work so hard to make there be a character where you're like, okay, Robin, just spew some shit and we can work with it. We'll animate
We'll make
in.
it work. We'll give him a backstory where this is possible.
Yeah.
You got it, man. That's fair. Do you have any other observations about this game we haven't reached or talked about yet?
Obviously not. I went on for 4 minutes about Ferngully just to get us over the 45-minute mark.
What was the hair like in 2005? Because it looks great in 2018, but like, did it look good in 2005?
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, it looks real good.
That's impressive. I kept thinking about that. It was
the landscape looked not as good.
Sure, of course.
But I think with the fog, it had kind of more of a romantic quality to it. The Colossi looked just as compelling. Obviously, there's a higher polygon count now or whatever. But you could make out runes. You could see individually moving bits of hair. You could, your imagination, like you knew what image they were trying to present. It was clear. Yeah.
I always found it impressive that none of those Colossi seemed to have like a unique roar. You know what I mean? Like none of them had like
well, they're mostly silent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird. Like I kept imagining that like in Jurassic Park they would make that sound that the Brontosaurus makes now. Or the Brachiosaur, excuse me.
The turtle would be.
Yeah, and then the music would swell. Yeah, but they don't have any of those sounds. They're just kind of silently roaming the earth.
They said it was a process of starting with what a normal game would have and then removing as many elements as they could get away with. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did at some point and had a meeting where Fumito was like, I don't even think we need the sounds.
Yeah.
Cut the sounds.
I'm sorry, do you care about that lion roar? I don't care about that lion roar. Cut it.
Yeah.
Cut that lion roar.
The game will be silent.
But it's weird for a lion not to roar. It's not weird for a Colossus not to roar. It's normal.
It's true, because it's a stone. It has no mouth.
Right. What's it roaring with?
I have no mouth, but I must roar.
It's Dorman spirit? Cut it.
You're all cut.
Yeah. Okay, so it's time to pass our last checkpoint.
Blink, blonk, blunk.
Yeah, the sword has drawn us to this final moment.
Yeah.
The light beam shines on our final question, to keep or to delete.
The light shines directly at our horse, and we don't know what it means. Must we kill our horse?
Must we kill the horse? By the way, the amount of time you have to watch that horse hobble around on a broken leg at the end is like, I get it. The horse is injured. Yeah. Like, just fix it. Like, let her magic it fine or whatever. Please.
Like,
no
I
more.
saw Neverending Story.
No more.
I saw the horse sink into the swamp. I don't need more sad horse shit.
Like, from my understanding, every horse that's ever broken its leg needs to be shotgunned. Is that what's coming at the end of this story?
My understanding from sitcoms and jokes, but I hope that that's not true anymore. I don't know.
Well, I didn't enjoy watching the horse hobble around.
If you own racehorses out there, is it still legal? Follow-up question, is it still common or accepted?
Yeah.
If your racehorse, which you invested in and want money back from, breaks its leg and can't race anymore, Do you just shoot it? Is
Yeah.
that still what people do?
Still the 2-barrel shotgun routine?
Because there's lots of jokes about that, but most of those jokes are dated. I wonder if that's still the case.
Yeah. This is the old glue factory jokes. Are they?
Yeah.
Is that based on anything? Yeah. I mean, it must be, right?
Jello has hooves in it, but I always wondered, is that a horse that was killed or a horse that died?
It's
In
a horse
which
they found.
case,
Yeah.
does Jello just come from like,
Carcasses?
is it really old, rotten, bad hooves? Like, this horse owned these hooves for the duration of its full natural lifespan. Now you eat it. You eat its powdered hoof.
We're not wasting that hoof. That horse died nobly. Now you eat your fucking jiggly hoof.
It's not hoof and mouth disease. It is a hoof and mouth privilege.
Keep or delete.
Is that where we're at?
We are, yeah.
Keep it, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, and the Queen's Sword features prominently in Ico too.
interesting.
I think the mythology is built very carefully and well.
Gently, too.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep this game. I thought about not keeping it, but I can't think of another game that had this experience anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, I literally can't think of a single game that has even a remotely, other than Breath of the Wild. But Breath of the Wild came later. I still think Breath of the Wild is better.
Yep.
By a lot, but I still that this game's got to get kept.
And
It's
yet
really
I
good.
wouldn't have been Oh wait, never mind. I forgot about the goddamn spirit animals in Breath of the Wild for a second. I was like,
Yeah.
And yet it would have been even better if a couple of the bosses were giant mechanical animals that were also a level.
And yet
And they
were, yeah.
The Breath of the Wild has even more in common than with Shadow than I even remembered at first. Yeah.
It kept its dungeon thing.
Yes.
But barely.
And yet, of course, Breath of the Wild is, because there's just so much more material there. It's a sumptuous feast for many more hours than Shadow.
Yeah.
Shadow of the Colossus is like an artistic short film if you compare it to like a standard game.
Like, people complain about Breath of the Wild being empty. That's a thing I hear a lot.
You're like, no, this shit is
Yeah,
empty.
Shadow of the Colossus is the ultimate empty game.
There's
like,
only
the most of it.
17 moving figures in the game world.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
I mean,
16
there's
Colossi, you and the horse, 18.
And the lizards.
Oh, that's right.
You know, like those lizards that are floating around.
The one collectible only, yeah.
You have to kill it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty great game. I'm glad you made me play it.
Yeah, and people write in and encourage Adam when he can find the time to finish Psychonauts, because even though he's going to pass on it, he's going to delete it.
Psychonauts.
It's good to talk about games
is.
you hate and why. I think sometimes that's more interesting.
I agree with that too. We'll finish Psychonauts. It's a little bit of a shame. It just now occurred to me. You know, another spiritual successor to this game, Journey. Like
Yes, I know.
Journey's in like
Yeah.
we're gonna cover Journey at some point.
And the brains behind Journey are equally fascinated with. They obviously sat around and asked themselves questions like, but what is video gaming
Right.
as a medium?
Right.
Well, it's interactivity. Well, what are forms of interactivity that can be played with? Like they're
Right.
coming at it from that
Right.
that end.
Like I don't want to cover things like Flower. You know what I mean? Like
I remember Flower.
yeah, but I don't want to cover like obscure things.
Well, we're going to do an indie bundle where
Yeah.
we do like Inside and Bastion. Not necessarily those two, but some bundle
Definitely
of 5
Inside.
indie games that matter.
Journey and Inside for sure.
I think Bastion's more important than Journey, but you don't like Bastion, so you don't want to play it.
I played a little bit of it.
Sure.
I played about an hour of it.
Did you play their most, well, as of this recording, I don't know if it's their most recent, but fucking what was it called?
What
The
about
game-
Hollow Knight? Can
Yeah,
I
Hollow
talk
Knight's
you into Hollow Knight or
fantastic.
Don't Starve? You played Don't
I don't-
Starve?
I think that Don't Starve is a far inferior version of Flame in the Flood. I'd really want you to play Flame in the Flood. And see
All
if
right,
you like
but
that
but
better.
but I'm putting some Gans games on your calendar.
But why do you, I don't, I feel
It's
bad.
happening.
Do you think that I'm picking indie games that I know you'll hate or
No.
like trying to punish
I know you're not
you?
doing that.
No,
I know you're not doing
that. And you know, I played all of Halo 1 and I hate that game
Do you hate
for
it?
this show. You can check the episode. I'm pretty down on it.
Yeah, but it seems
I
like you're a little bit of a
grudgingly gave
bit.
it- well, it's like I can watch a classic film. I can watch The Third Man. I
Sure.
hate The Third Man. It doesn't
Sure.
entertain me, and the twist I saw coming a mile away. I can go, I'm sure it's probably good, and I'm sure there's reasons you could explain that it's good. For me, Halo is like that. I'm like,
Okay.
oh, I see why it's good. I hate it.
Yeah. yeah. That's fair. I remember.
I just want to look this up real quick, and then we'll leave you guys. Adam, buy me 30 more seconds.
That's fair. I also want everyone to know that I made Michael play Dead Space, and he made me play Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah, we go. That's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah,
tell
we go
me
back
if
and
you
forth.
feel like it's imbalanced, because I would want to.
Fallout New Vegas is a
lot to
big
play.
choro game.
It is.
But I'm gonna make you play the Division 2, I think.
Make me play whatever you want,
Yeah.
bro. I'm down. That's our job as doing
Division
this
2.
show.
Yeah. That's gonna be a long.
Supergiant
trek.
Games is the name of the developer, and their most recent game, Transistor. It's not.
Oh
their
yeah,
most,
we were talking about that.
It's not actually their most recent because they've also made Pyre and Hades since. But I really like Transistor.
There was like a 3D,
I like Pyre too.
Pyre's okay.
It's a combination of like a conversation game and a basketball game. It was bizarre.
There was a 3D like space fighter game that was in the spirit of like Gradius that came out with PS4 that was actually pretty good.
Freelancer?
No, it wasn't Freelancer. And like you went in. The thing that was unique to this game is that you basically traveled in a moving circle that you could go either way around, like a cylindrical circle. Like that was the level. It was really cool. And it's cheap, maybe even free. We should cover it because it was really good.
Let's just say this: I'm not that much of an asshole because I'm not even making you include Enter the Gungeon in the indie list.
I played some Enter the Gungeon. I just am not very good at it.
Even though for me that's the game that's most addictive to me. Like I
Yeah.
kill time playing it. There's not much to talk about.
That's
It's
the
just
thing.
a thing.
Well,
it's like popcorn. I just
think,
like it.
I mean, like, and certainly maybe the audience will be interested in this. Maybe they won't. I feel like we could do 20 minutes a game. Like, I feel like we could do 20 minutes on Journey.
Shit.
We could do 20 minutes on Hollow Knight.
Gotta do Return of Obra Dinn, dude. It was so good.
Well, and maybe we need to do multiple indie bundles, but like,
Eventually, but
Yeah.
understand that it takes us time to play all these things.
right.
Yeah.
Like maybe we need to cover Braid at some point.
Oh, Braid definitely
Yeah.
should be covered. I think Lucas Pope is one of at the forefront of indie gaming.
What about
He
Ori
did
and the Blind Forest?
Papers, Please, and Obra Dinn. Ori and the Blind Forest is really good.
I haven't played
I'd
that.
talk about it. It's
Okay.
really fun. Are we done?
I think so.
I think so.
Here's a bunch of things we might do.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about 3D space games. I just got a shout out, both because people will connect with me on it and I want to talk to people about it online.
Yeah.
And it just takes me back, man. Did you ever play Homeworld?
No.
So if people like things like Age of Empires, Command and Conquer, StarCraft,
Oh, yeah.
Warcraft, this was, as far as I'm aware, the first fully 3D RTS. You could rotate the camera, you're in space, you would tell fleets of ships, go mine this, build a platform here to construct a space station. You would have like space fights that look like footage from Star Trek. You know, it was 3D RTS. It's so fucking fun.
So I'm interested in the audience's opinion on like some of our upcoming episodes we're talking about doing. We're talking about doing a Subnautica episode. I'm arguing we should do an Assassin's Creed because we haven't covered that at all
Keep
yet.
dragging our feet on it. We got to.
Yeah, we should do one of those and a Mass Effect.
So yeah, tell us what you're most like. How have you guys not covered this yet?
But remember that we're not going to cover really obscure things like for a while, right? Like we're gonna gravitate toward things that are mainstream. For the
I
most
like
part.
a healthy mix. Like right now, we're covering Shadow of the Colossus.
That's still a
Sales
fairly
figures-
well-known game.
True. Which is
Yeah.
why we'd bundle indie shit
Yes.
together. But I guess I'm just want to say, and maybe we will fight about this. Maybe
Sure.
you don't agree.
Let's see.
I like a 8-2. I guess I should say 4-1 ratio. Like I like every
Four regular games.
fifth or sixth episode to be something. I don't want people only to come to this show to
For AAAs.
digest Red Dead Redemption 2, but also potentially to go, I find myself agreeing with Adam more than Michael or Michael more than Adam, and Adam mentioned a game I never heard of. I bet I'd like it.
Right.
I want that to be part of it.
But like we have this, I mean, maybe people care about this, maybe they don't. We have this argument all the time. Like I think the Edith Finch game that we covered was one of my favorite conversations we ever had. And yet we both were like, should we even bother doing this game because it's so obscure? And we haven't covered anything as obscure since.
Well, Edith Finch was behind the paywall. I'll have you know it just got re-released a couple days ago as of this recording to the general public.
I'm happy to hear that for the general public.
And it is sitting pretty at 5,700 listens, which puts it on par with all the other episodes around it. So I do think 1Upsmanship, and I'm very grateful to be saying this, has reached a point where people are tuning in for us in our analysis, even if they don't know that game per se. Very kind of them.
No, thank you very much. We love having you guys.
But yeah, if we mention games, also where you're like, no one's heard about that, no one cares, don't cover that, tell us in the comments.
Right. And I maintain that I'm still gonna say no and cover Deus Ex instead. I've never played Deus Ex.
I just played Deus Ex Mankind Divided all the way through in the interest of being able to cover it for this podcast when the time comes.
It is funny how many games you and I have played, maybe thinking about maybe covering it and haven't yet.
But also, we cover games that we both completed 5 years ago and we still remember well enough to cover.
True.
So these will become those. If you know what I mean?
That's true. We'll
in
just
5
stock
years,
them away.
I'll be like, fuck, I played all the way through Deus Ex just to cover it, and we never did. Let's cover it now.
Far Cry Primal? You think I fucking rode those mammoths for no reason?
Did we not release a Primal episode?
No. We covered Far Cry 5.
5 with Dave Bell. I remember that.
We haven't covered 3 either, which is, to me, the most important
Look,
Far Cry.
there's still, like you said, if we haven't touched Assassin's Creed at all, I don't need to be going Far Cry 2, Far Cry 6.
I agree.
Right, we'll get there.
I agree with
there.
the Jedi on this matter. 2 or 4, which Assassin's Creed? Bye.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you!